My guest today is Mitch Lucas. I knew Mitch back when he was just a mere child and played tenor saxophone in the Lamar County, Alabama band program when I happened to be director there. He now lives in Texas and has been a sports columnist there for more years than either of us would like to or can remember. And I have my own story about how you get from tenor sax to writing. But today I want to hear about how in the world that happened to Mitch. So thanks for being here today, Mitch.
Hey, no problem. I'm actually honored. I saw more than seen this more than on one occasion, more than one occasion, and saw the one with Steve Hollis. And of course, anytime that I get a message from Jim Arnold asking me, could I do X? I'm going to do my best to do X because of the respect and the fondness that I've had for you for going on, I guess, about 4 decades now, if
Yeah,
I can
that
date
sounds
us both a
right.
little bit.
That's really hard to believe, isn't it?
It is hard to believe.
Yeah. Well, listen, are you from origin? Are you originally from Vernon?
I would say so. My both of my parents are from Vernon. I lost my dad several years ago, but uh, I would say, yeah. We moved back to Vernon when I was just a small child, like I was in fifth grade, and I probably about a year after that was when I hooked up with Jim Arnold and the LCHS Band of Gold.
When was the last time you played saxophone?
That would probably be, um, I don't want to say all the time. I'm breaking my little Toastmasters rule here. Uh, and I did it again. It would have been 1992, I guess. No, you know what? 91, because I went to, it's now Bevel State, but I went there when it was Brewer State.
Yep.
I went there under a band scholarship, and believe it or not, under uh, a vocal under a vocal scholarship. You can believe that one.
Really?
I must have really sold that they were buying something that day. But I probably it would have been spring of '91 when I last played, but I actually miss it greatly. I'll be honest.
Now, what year did you graduate high school, Mitch?
That would be 1988.
88. I couldn't remember exactly when that was, but I remember that group. That was,
It was a good group.
yeah, it really was. Um, if I remember correctly, you and your family were always rabid Alabama fans.
Yeah, I would say that. But I kind of came by, and you know what's really weird is uh, my mom and dad. My dad was, of course, he was a pastor, but he was bivocational. He was in the car business and multifaceted ways in the car business, and he would tell you to a fault. If he were sitting here today, my mom was. A homemaker and still is to this day. And neither one of them actually went to Alabama. I had two uncles who both went to Alabama. One who still lives in the Tuscaloosa area, David Woods, who was a pilot in the Air Force, and another, my dad's brother Larry, who's been gone for quite some time. And he was actually for a little while. I have to admit this. He was a roommate of Kenny Stabler. That's how long ago that goes back. So I doing what I do. I have met a lot of famous people. I actually bumped into Stabler at at an Alabama Mississippi State game in the press box. And when we were talking at lunch, and he asked me about my uncle, I had to tell him he had passed. And I have the dubious distinction, I think, of being one of the very few people, I can't imagine he did it often, of making Kenny Stabler cry in person. I hate to say that, but he we sat there a minute and he teared up about my uncle's passing. And I had to tell him, you know what, That's actually been a long time ago. His death was in '84, and our meeting when I ran into Stabler was probably '97 or '98. So he had been gone quite a few years.
What a great
But yeah,
story.
I would say that the thing about Alabama is definitely a true statement.
Yeah, did you attend Alabama?
I did, and I was a double major at Alabama. I know the political science thing. My uncle David says political science degree and a 50 cents will get you the proverbial cup of coffee.
Maybe.
And I had to tell him, not now, coffee prices are going up. But yeah, I was a double major there. I was political science and history. And I'll say this. I spent 3 years trying to get out uh, of Alabama, and now I would love to go back. I actually
Yeah.
miss it
Yeah.
quite. Yeah, I miss it quite a
My oldest grandson is a junior in Tuscaloosa now, and he's decided he doesn't ever want to leave.
I understand that. My son is a senior. I think, I hope, and he's on track to graduate. Probably, you know what? He may not graduate in May. It may end up being December. But I'm proud of Jacob. He's involved in. Uh, I want to say, I mean, he's changed his major once, only once in his whole college career. I think his major is something like creative video, but he works in the Alabama athletic department as his gig. So he just goes and does what they say, and which is pretty nice for the son of a sports reporter. He gets to go and do, what he grew up doing, which is just going to games, just whatever event they send him to, he's there. And all of my children are that way. None of the apples fell far from the tree on that. My oldest is a second grade teacher, and she's married to a volleyball and baseball coach. And my youngest, Ashton, is in dance and has been in dance her whole life, and will probably end up either as a dance instructor in some way, or out here in Texas, drill teams are huge. So I could see her going into education. Both of my both my girls are in education, and who knows what Jacob will do with that creative video? I don't know what he'll do. You
You
never
know,
can tell about Jacob.
anybody that teaches elementary school, especially kindergarten, first or second grade, has my admiration.
Me
I,
too.
I do not understand how they develop that degree of patience, but they have it, and they don't seem to have any trouble managing a room full of little heathens.
And it can be that, as I understand. She tells me stories, horror stories from time to time, but I think they're having a pretty good school year. They're in Katy, Texas, so
That's
they're
great.
having a yeah they're having a enjoyable school year. A little more than this is her second full school year teaching. So her husband Nate, so Nate is 29 ish. Teresa is 28. Anyway, they're I think enjoying themselves.
That's a great story. I have seen pictures of your youngest daughter, and she was with the Kilgore drill team.
She was with Kilgore High School for quite some time. She is a student now at Kilgore College, and she's got an eye on trying out, I think, for the Rangerettes. She's that's when you do that, that's kind of the pinnacle of the drill team thing.
No kidding.
Uh, yeah, we'll see if she ends up doing that. But she's also talked about moving on to either Alabama or, don't tell Jacob, but maybe Texas A&M. Or we'll just have to see on that. But we're proud of her. She's done so well with dance. I was at covering a cheerleader competition um, last week, and I've been to so many of the high school state cheer competition was last week in Fort Worth, and I've covered so many dance things that I think I was thinking I could actually judge one. But I don't think I could judge the cheer one. I'm I don't think I'd try to do that. The dance one, I might actually be able to judge
That's pretty cutthroat stuff, isn't it? The
it. It
cheerleading
is.
thing.
Yeah, it is. They're all cut. They're all cut. Of course, they divide it out here. They divide it in, and I guess they do in Bama. I'm not sure, but in out here at the state level, uh, they divide it into classifications. So
Right.
1A is not going against a 6A or whatever. So I'm sure they do that everywhere.
Yeah,
But
pretty
that was
bad.
actually my first time to watch the state cheer competition. There were probably 1,000 schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, how did you get into writing a sports column?
Yeah, that's not every day that you hear
No.
that. That's not, you don't walk down the street and bump into a sports writer and knock him down, even though you might want to. I can remember when I was growing up, my dad, serious business, this is how. My dad, and I don't know if you remember or if you keep up with the scene now. Do you know who Paul Feinbaum is, the sports
Absolutely.
columnist?
Yeah.
Okay, now he's gone on to the SEC network. He has his own TV program, and every day I'm giving him a little plug here. I didn't mean to, but there you go, Paul. But Paul used to write a pretty inflammatory column for
Yeah.
the Birmingham Post Herald, if you remember the Post Herald, and
Yep.
the Birmingham News. And my dad, every day, he'd go to the lot or go to do whatever he had to do with the car business. And every morning, especially football season, he would go get the paper and he would come back. I'd run into him, and he would be like upset. And I would say, what's the matter? And finally, I figured out it was after he read Mom's column
Yeah.
that he was getting upset. So I'm like, you just quit reading it. And he didn't want to do that. So my
Yeah.
dad every day would buy the Birmingham News, the Commercial Dispatch in Columbus. They're the paper of record in Columbus, Mississippi, for your viewing. The Commercial Dispatch, all the Tuscaloosa News, all of them. And so, if you remember Cecil Hurt, who's now he's passed away, longtime columnist of the Tuscaloosa News. So I went through Alabama, got got through there. We got married probably a little quicker than we should have, and we were in kind of straits. And I'm like, you know what? This is actually not panning out, and I'm cutting yards for a little while. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be doing this when I'm like 40. I don't know that I still want to do. And I'm 22 at the time, and I'm like, I don't know that this yard cutting thing is going to pan out. So I don't really see myself being a political scientist in Reform, Alabama, or wherever. So um, I I thought, I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty good writer, and I uh, heard that there was a sports writer's job open that it just said no experience necessary. So I literally called the number, told the guy a little bit about myself, and he, I'll be honest, we're being honest here. I'm on a payphone. I did this on a payphone.
Yeah.
And he called me back and he said, you know what? He said, I don't have anybody to go to, and of all places. He said, I don't have anybody for the Vernon South Lamar game. And I said, okay. I said, full disclosure, I went to Vernon. I went to LCHS, went to Vernon. And he said, you know what? I could not care less. I need the game covered. So he said, come get a camera, come get a notepad. He said, get your own notepad, whatever you want to do, whatever you're comfortable with, and show up. So this was before the where everything kind of translated to digital, where everything, we were still in darkroom at that point, barely, barely. I came in just in the nick of time, if you get my drift, to go in and have to learn all the darkroom stuff that we would not need much longer after that. Anyway, so I took the gig. It was a little small town, it, Milford,
Oh yeah.
a
Yeah.
little small town in Alabama, West Alabama. And I was there for about 6 months. And when I first got there, um, I was only doing sports coverage. Then I learned kind of quickly how to lay out the paper. And then he came to me and he said, "What'd you say you went to school in? What was your major?" And I said, "Political science." Well, at that point, we had some things going on politics wise in Alabama. So he said, "How would you like to write a column, for our political page?" So I did that for a little while. And it was actually that got me noticed by the Commercial Dispatch in Columbus. And they called me and they said, "Hey, we understand that you didn't go to school for journalism, but we'd really like to have you here on staff." So I migrated over to Columbus, Mississippi for a little while and worked at the Commercial Dispatch for about 4 years. Here's kind of a horrifying story very quickly. Um, I covered so much news there early in my career. And then I walked in one day and one of our sports writers had passed away. He actually literally died in the parking lot of a heart attack. And I had over that next week, I had a particularly bad day. I had to go out and cover like three, four car accidents in a day. And one of them out there where you turn off to go to Macon and Meridian near the Columbus area.
Sure.
There was an accident, 18-wheeler accident that killed a few people. And I left that accident, went straight to the office, went straight to the publisher's office. It's a very bold move, or stupid one, depending on your point of view. Took my rain gear off, took my hat off, and he was sitting there. Guy was sitting there, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "I'm going to apply. I'm here to apply for this for the opening in sports." So they moved me over to sports, and I pretty much been there ever since. I've done some news stuff. On the day that we were all will remember where we were on September 11th, 2001. I was actually doing a story about an auditing mistake in a county in Mississippi, and it ended up was going to cost that county $850,000. And I had the world exploding around me, but locally to that county, $850,000 obviously is a lot of money. So, and it's just a weekly paper. So this is fast forwarded, 4 years later from the Dispatch. I'm working at another paper, and I've got all the scanners are going on. People are running in and out of the paper, and I'm trying to focus on this tax decimal mistake story, which ended up, being great. It ended up being a pretty good story. I actually won an award for that, but one of the few awards I've ever won. but I've I've had some interesting challenges over the years, but that's how you get from being a political science major. Just go broke, get married, go broke, um, realize that you don't know what you're going to do, and then hit the want ads and go, you know what, I can write. And the publisher was down on his luck, and next thing I know, a year later, I'm working in the daily paper.
What a great story. And you're exactly right. Being married and broke seem to go together at the
They
beginning.
do. They're synonymous.
But
Married, broke.
I also noticed, and I don't know if you pay attention to this sort of thing or not, but I've noticed a little Lamar County accent in your voice,
You got
especially
it.
when you name the town that most people would call reform, but you said it the proper way, reform.
It is absolutely reform. It is reform. A friend of mine bumped into a guy at a restaurant. We were together at a restaurant, and the guy told us he was from Detroit, and we walked off, and my friend laughed, and he said, "He's not from Detroit. He might be from Detroit,
That's right.
but he's not from Detroit."
Oh man. Now, did you ever try play by play?
I did. We've done it. We had a little couple. Let's see, a few years back. I actually took this job in Kilgore. I should tell you this. I actually took this job in Kilgore. I was doing some freelance for some sports magazines, And I took this job in Kilgore to, here goes the air quotes, settle down, and like not have a full-time gig so I could do some freelance stuff. And I got here and found out that like Kilgore was good across the board in everything, and there was a college here, and they were also ranked number two in the nation in football. So I probably should have done my research a little better if I wanted to settle down. So I never did do that. But we got here, and the baseball team went to here we do everything neutral site. You know, in Alabama, a lot of places they go to your side, whoever's got the best record. Out here, because I guess because Texas is so big and whatever, we go do the neutral site thing. So we were pretty deep in the playoffs. Kilgore High School, not we. I didn't play, but Kilgore High School was pretty deep in the playoffs. And a friend of mine who is also one of the he does TV and radio. A friend of mine gave me a call and he said, "Hey, our regular color guy is out. It's about a 90-minute drive where we were going." He said, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So we get there and we notice that the athletic director from Kilgore is coming up the steps to where we are. The athletic director from Highland Park, the opposing school, the Dallas area school, that's where Jerry Jones's grandkids all went to school, Highland Park. So that tells you they're local. So they're both athletic directors are coming up the bleachers to baseball games, but it's packed. There's like probably 3,000 people there. Seriously, this is deep into the playoff, and our athletic director, Kilgore's athletic director, comes to our guy. He's got everything set up already, and we're like 10 minutes out from the game, and he says, "Manny, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to shut it down." And Manny is very mild mannered, like almost mild mannered to a fault. And he said, "Why? We can do that, but why?" And the athletic director said, "Because Highland Park doesn't have a broadcast team here, and UIL rules state that it has to be equal. If they don't have a broadcast team here, we can't have one." Well, as we're having this conversation, a cable TV truck rolls up behind the Highland Park uh, dugout. And I tapped Manny and I said, "Hey, hey." And he points to, the truck. Well, the athletic directors are starting down the bleachers. And I said, "Hey, Coach Val." And they come back up and I said, "What is that? What's that cable truck there?" And the Highland Park athletic director says, "Oh, that's our cable company. And they're not here for radio. They're here to broadcast the game back to our TV." And our athletic director stands there for a minute and he said, he's got like has a gravelly voice like Bear Bryant or Coach Stallings. And he looks at our broadcast guy and he goes, "Turn all your stuff back on." And I said, "Oh man, we're in the middle of this." And the Highland Park athletic director says, "No, we don't have a radio crew." And our athletic director says, "No, you don't have a radio crew. You got a TV crew. So this is how it's going to be. Either your TV crew doesn't film and goes home, or everybody can broadcast and everybody can be happy. So what's it going to be?" So the guy stands there a minute and he goes, "Call your game." So we go on and do the game. Kilgore beats Highland Park. We hit a home run and then we have to come to the plate and we get out. We win 3-2. Highland Park's catcher that day was Matthew Stafford, now the quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. And their pitcher was Clayton Kershaw
Oh
of the LA
man,
Dodgers. So
that's
that's who we beat.
right.
That's who we beat.
Well, now that part of Texas, we think we know a little bit about high school football around, Lamar County, and
Well, we do.
it's it's even more rabid where you are than it is anywhere in Alabama that I've ever been.
Well, here's the secret about East Texas that, and I think a lot of Texas that they don't tell you. Uh, I think the perception, because it was my perception before I moved out here, the perception is that everybody out here is absolutely crazy about the Dallas Cowboys.
No, it's high school, isn't it?
It's high school.
I
It's high
read
school. Yeah, it's
I
far and away
read
high school.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, it's high school, and uh, unfortunately, because of some of the decisions that the Cowboys have made, and I don't think I think they've just been bad decisions. I don't think they just like trying to run everybody off. The real enemy, as they I've always heard, the real enemy of love is not hate, it's indifference, and that's what they've got here. Unfortunately, Cowboys, the fans of the Cowboys here, they can like take it or leave it, and that's the problem. I mean, everybody here is big on high school, pretty big on college. Um, they let me hear it when Alabama loses. I can assure you that. I I'm not a talker though. I don't. And the last I don't know what since 2008, I could have talked a good bit because I think at some point, other than maybe Baylor, I think we've ran into about everybody out here, and we meaning Alabama. Again, I don't put on shoulder pads, but Alabama has ran into about everybody out here and dusted them off at some point. Of course, lately we have lost to Texas. That cost me a little bit, but at any rate,
I think that was a fluke.
I do too, but I can't say that.
Well, so do you have a formula for writing your columns, or do you just wing it?
What I normally do, uh, I recently had a kid, and I call him a kid. He's 27 years old, who went to go cover some bowl games for me, and I typed out not really an outline, but more so of an example paragraph, and then gave him um, kind of I bracketed some information. Basically, what I do is I come up with a catchy lead that like the opening sentence of a story. I try to always get the score. If you're doing a game story, always get the score way up high. You don't have to have it in your first sentence or even your first paragraph, but get it pretty high. If somebody did something impressive, uh, okay. If I were writing a story on the game last week with Philadelphia, the Eagles, and the used to be Redskins, now Commanders, I would have probably said, uh, I would have given some sort of catchy lead, and then I would have said really early on, uh, Philadelphia running back Saquon Barkley was a huge factor. Long dash, Barkley finished with X amount of yards and scored however many times. And then come in if you make it to the to the media shindig after everything's over, and you can get a quote or two, stick a quote up high, come back with kind of if it was a close game, uh, put the facts of what happened, toward the end of the game, how it played out, then go back afterward and say, here's how we got here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's usually how I do
So,
it. So
so
I do have a formula, I guess.
if I wanted to create a stir, I could title this "Paul Feinbaum Hates Alabama," according to. And
You know what's actually funny about this? I got away from that. I should have told you. So in my all of my uh time at the dispatch when I was at Columbus, I actually got to know Cecil Hurt in Tuscaloosa. I got to know Feinbaum a little bit and some of the other folks. And when I got to Kilgore, probably I had been to Kilgore. I got to Kilgore in '02, and it was probably '04 or '05. And I actually got a call from Paul Feinbaum from them. At that point, he was in Mobile. He was with Birmingham and Mobile,
yeah,
and he said, "Hey, uh, we noticed that you had applied here before, and we're checking on old applications because we've got a hole here." And he said, "I'm actually going to be leaving," and that was when he was making his move, doing some stuff. And at that point, we had only been here a short time, and I didn't want to go anywhere. And I just, we talked for just a minute, And he said, well, you know, these jobs in Alabama, he said, they don't open up much. You know, Cecil Hurt was in Tuscaloosa 30 something years. He explained how long he had been in Birmingham and so forth. And I actually, ever so often, I still talk to Feinbaum ever so often. I find his sense of humor. I never have told him. I guess if he watches this, he'll know about my dad and my dad's hatred for Feinbaum. But that's actually one of the things that spurred me to do what I do. Kind of funny.
That's great. And now your sister is almost as bad as your dad was, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. She's don't call during the game. Uh, don't insult any former Alabama player. If Jalen Hurts only has 95 yards and 3 picks in the Super Bowl, don't say anything. Let it ride. That's probably the best. You know what though? But I love her for being that way.
Now, what advice do you have, Mitch, for say some 19 or 20-year-old kid wants to be a sports writer?
Definitely, as you're going to college, uh, don't um, don't overload yourself uh, with don't overload yourself with the extra, but go to your local TV station or even though I know newspapers and they really are a thing of the daily papers are a thing of the past as far as feeling them. And I hate to say that because I love them too, but um, go to your local paper if they have a strong online presence, especially. Go to your local paper. I would tell these people to go to their local paper, offer to go on Friday. Most every paper will never turn down help on Friday night during football season
Yeah.
or Friday night during basketball season. Go to them, tell them you're a sophomore at, you know, Kennesaw State or wherever you're at, and that you would really like to get the experience because you'll never. I mean, you know what? I say you'll never, but I'm an example to the contrary. We live in a much different time than we did in 1994
Oh
when I
yeah.
was able to make this transition. And I had a lot of, I hate to say luck, if you want to say fortune. I ran into a lot of people that helped my career along the way. I got a lot of breaks. Um, you can do all those things, but why not help yourself and go out, go to your local paper, say, hey, let me go cover, you know, Bear Bryant High School against Hoover or whatever the case may be on Friday night. Let me go do that. And chances are you're not going to get to do that anyway. They're going to send you to Aliceville versus Pickens County
Yeah.
your first time out. But the low man on the totem pole always gets the games that are not as good. I was the low man on the totem pole for my first several years, and that's just the way it goes. But I've now pulled. Uh, I still love them, but I've pulled out of newspapers and graduated. That's my biggest challenge over the last 2 years. I've pulled out of newspapers, and I now own my own website thingy where I have an LLC and we have our own. We've got a couple of sports sites. One is local, focuses on local East Texas sports news, not hard news because I couldn't go do a bank robbery at this stage of my life.
Well,
Uh,
if you don't mind, send me that link, and
I can.
I want to include it with this video when I put this out. And listen, I appreciate you talking to me today, and I have learned many things that I did not know.
Well, that's all right. I've had fun, and I knew we would. It kind of, I think it maybe kind of helped as much as I've missed talking with you over the years. I think it kind of helped a little bit that for this particular purpose that we had not,
Yeah,
because you
well,
were able to just honestly just ask me stuff. Usually, I'm on the end that you're on. I was thinking last night over dinner. Ashton said, "What's the matter with you?" My daughter, my youngest, said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I was just thinking that I don't remember the last time, if ever, that's, I mean, obviously the kids have interviewed me and done different things, but I'm normally sitting on that end of it. I'm normally the one asking the questions. I'm normally not the one.
Well, I'm glad we had a chance to turn it around, Mitch, and I appreciate you being here today, and I look forward to talking to you again.
It was a lot of fun.
Great.